Goodbye, old phone. Hey, why me? What's up? And today I'm gonna do a review of the very new Death Grips LP, Year of the Snitch. Sacramento-based trio Death Grips consists of math rock drummer Zach Hill, Andy Flatlander Morin, and Stefan MC Ride Burnett, an experimental rap rock electronic band that had a rough in-your-face brutal start to their discography with Ex-Military and The Money Store, two albums I also reviewed. Check them out. Then it gets more artistic, experimental, and abstract with albums like No Love Deep Web and Government Plates, and then they experiment even more on the powers that be, with the first half littered with chopped up Björk vocals, while the second half is a thrilling and empowering hard rock explosion. Then they released Bottomless Pit, which is more poppy, fun, and accessible. They went kinda quiet in the year 2017, only releasing Steroids EP, which I think is okay. Personally, my favorite track on there is the electrifying and busy Bald Head Girl, and the next track, which is more futuristic and captivating. Then they started to tease towards this album with singles. I'm kinda lukewarm with Streaky and Shitshow, but Hahaha and Black Paint really blew me away. So I had a mixed feeling going into this album, cause this album is easily one of their weirdest albums behind Government Plates and the first half of The Powers That Be. It's way more muddier, obscured, and ugly, with CDs, random emojis, banana peels, ass wiping, peeing, and weird squishy slime in their music videos, all of which are fucking disgusting. And this album also feels less sturdy, monstrous, and in your face than a lot of their previous albums. Death Grips really tuned down their hardcore industrial sound on this album. Instead, they explored more on psych rock, krautrock, and maybe a little bit of jazz even. And even though it's not as dark or as edgy, the performance and the production is just as insane and intense. The album starts off with Death Grips is online, which is the catchphrase they've been promoting for a while. And honestly, I love this album opener. Death Grips has amazing album openers such as Get Got, Beware, You Might Think He Loves You, and Giving Bad People Good Ideas, and this as well. We get these grand ascending synths that sounds like a drug-induced 90s rave at first, and then we get into the very busy and bustly and slithering verses where MC Ride raps in a very lo-fi but speedy way. I have no idea at all how could MC Ride say Death Grips is online that fast. And I love the catchy backup sample for this track. Din 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 din. The repetitive bustling bass, the watery synths, the turntable scratches, and MC Ride's shrieking adds onto the quirkiness of this fun, entrancing banger. I'm giving this track a 10 out of 10. Next up is Flies, which I'm not too impressed with at first, but it's really grown on me when I listen to this album as a whole. We hear these subtle, drony, descending rings as MC Ride goes, should opportunity arise, vomit me, flies, vomit me.
Half-lit! Coolers, half-losses, two was warm blanket, statement Denver air, terminal patient.
And the lyrics are also somewhat disturbing and even more cryptic as MC Ride begs flies to vomit him out as if he's embodying filth or something. And I like how MC Ride constantly changes from shouting to lo-fi rapping during the verses. And although it's not as hard-hitting or as electrocuting as other Death Grips tracks are, it's still pretty solid and the production is very groovy. I'm giving Flies an 8 out of 10. The third track is Black Paint, and it's easily one of the best Death Grips tracks ever. Wow. It's a bold and empowering arena rock track with the steady booming drum beats, ascending psychedelic guitars, and grandiose performance by MC Rye. Boom, boom, boom! It feels like a mix between Beyond Alive and Blackjack with way more flavor and color added into it. I love the buildup of tension during the hard-hitting and heavy and dense verses. Then all the tension pays off when the chorus hits, and it's such an eargasm. Oh my gosh. I'm giving Black Paint a 10 out of 10, a really solid 10 out of 10, hands down. The fourth track is the quiet and absurd Linda's in Custody. It serves as a cool down, but it doesn't have anything too interesting, thus it's a bit underwhelming for a song title this intriguing. But I do love the unsettling, unorthodox woodwind and synth leads. I like the plastic polished beats similar to the ones on No Love Deep Web, and I also enjoy the claustrophobic and intimate delivery by MC Ride. Still, it's not as aggressive, not as fun, which is normal for a cool down track, but yet not as vivid or as groovy. I'm giving this a 7 out of 10, unfortunately. I'm sorry if I've offended anyone. Then we get the horn section, which is a chaotic, dirty interlude with extremely intense keyboard passages and drum patterns, and it transitions onto Hahaha, which is another weird and polarizing, yet upbeat and guitar-driven song that I dig a lot. I like how Death Grips sampled a line from Lock Your Doors, which is Destroyer! With these very broken, breathless synths that sounds like it's dying because MC Ride is breaking out of his cage. And then we get a very ambient-like descending sound with super messy drums and MC Ride's vocals muttered and filtered just like most of the album, and the chorus is strangely uplifting and interstellar. It feels like going through an insane warping wormhole, and I crack up every time the woman screams towards the beginning of the track. It's such an odd sample, and overall it's such a fun damn song. I'm giving Hahaha a 10 out of 10. Next up, it's Shitshow. It's a shit show, which is a mind-blowingly chaotic and grotesque, fucked up 1 minute and 45 seconds.
It's a shit show. It's a shit show.
The drums are super fast and out of control, so are the vocals. MC Ride is basically regurgitating words out of his mouth with no discipline whatsoever, and it sounds like they are trying to sound as ugly and as chaotic as possible. And this feeds into the narrative of trash. We make trash, we upload trash, trash begets trash, which is a song off of Bottomless Pit. Go check them out. And although I won't listen to this track like other Death Grips tracks, it really succeeds at what it's trying to achieve. I'm giving it an 8, even though it would be a 5 without the context, if you know what I mean. And then it's Streaky, the first lead-up single to the album, which I don't like that much at first because it feels so lifeless and redundant despite its creative and poppy, plastic, bouncy bleeps and bloops. But overall, it's not that bad in the full picture. This track is low-key fun and groovy, but still not as skin-tight and as conscious as or Get Got. It feels like they made this song only because they want to throw a fun, catchy banger into the track list so that people will like it better.
Streaky on the outside, standby dealer holding franchise. Southside, do me cause it sounds tight. Streaky on the outside, oh my, yeah, oh my, yeah.
But you know, the production is still sweet, the soundscapes is so well established, and I'm still okay towards this track. I'm giving Streaky a 6 to a 7 out of 10. Dilemma is also one of the highlights on this album. It's so great. Death Grips sounds more like a band than any tracks on this album. The track starts off with these dreamy amusement park music sample that feels so distant and filtered, it's disorienting. Then we hear Andrew Adamson, the director of Shrek. Why the fuck is he here? And he does a little spoken word for Death Grips, just for the memes, you know, just for the memes. And then we get these jazzy drums and dissonant woodwinds doodling in the background while MC Ride spits one of the best verses of the entire album. Can't say I buy them, just show up lately. Lately seems to start me like Yeti, like scream of a haunted jetty. Let me be a haunted jetty. And the chorus is so thrilling, bombastic, and loud. It has sort of an Asian flavor to it that really adds onto the acidity of the track. I'm giving Dilemma a 10. Next up is Little Richard, which is easily the worst track on this album. It has a very messy, muddy beat with a robotic, monotone MC Ride on top, and that's why it's so flavorless and lifeless. There's nothing that stands out instrumentally nor lyrically. So it's just kind of there for no reason. I'm feeling a 4 out of 10. The next track is The Fear, which is a very long-winded experimental masterpiece by Death Grips. It has a really random sound recording at first, and then we get these really cartoony and animated descending chords. And then there's the hook, which has some swingy guitars that has a psych and crowd rock flavor to it, plus MC Ride going, The Fear. The chorus later is surprisingly poppy and bouncy. It sounds like it's straight out of an early 2010s Eminem track. It almost sounds conflicting when MC Ride screams on top of his lungs on top of this light-hearted instrumental section. And with all these parts of this track together, this track, The Fear, really strikes fear with a lot of creativity within. And it's really unexpected that they made a track like this. It's kind of crazy. I'm giving The Fear a 9 out of 10. And after another super speed, intense instrumental interlude that's muttered and filtered, titled Outro, we get Disappointed as the album ender, which is a way more industrial in-your-face track that reminds me a lot of the harsher bangers on No Love Deep Web. Disappointed. This track is way more laser-focused and tense and grim and dirty, and the chorus breaks into a very raw and organic, out-of-beat wah me. And it is also used in the tracklist announcement video. I thought that's pretty damn cool. And I also like the constantly alternating shouting and whispering during the verses in a really, really fast way that's catchy. I'm giving Disappointed an 8 out of 10. And even though it's a great track, it's not that fitting as the album ender. Death Grips is great at making album openers, but not so great at making album enders. While Hacker is a real banger, the only time I really feel the finality and the ultimacy of an album is on the track Artificial Death in the West. But still, Disappointed does not disappoint. I'm sorry. Overall, this album really grew on me, and it really surprises me at how versatile and creative it is. Despite the fact that Death Grips is incorporating elements of other genres, they're still creating some of the rawest and most intense bangers out there. And I love how grotesque and absurdist this album is. This album has its own flavor and texture, and same for all other Death Grips LPs. Every album feels different. You know, they're not about the linear movement. Even though there are a few overly strange tracks here and there that kind of fell flat, and even though it's not as high fidelity as Bottomless Pit, or as thrilling and as mind-blowing as Jenny Death, most of the album are still on point. The sampling is very tasteful, the performance is cohesive and exhilarating. The worst is Little Richard, and the best is Black Paint. I'm giving Death Grips Year of the Snitch a solid 8 out of 10. So, have you listened to Death Grip's Year of the Snitch? From 1 to 10, how much would you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more. And tell me what's your favorite track off of Year of the Snitch as well. Mine, Black Paint.